Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. Is it cold there?
Yes, it is. It's
God.
cold in my studio.
Oh my
It's a
gosh.
little cold. I know. I'm covered up.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, yeah, it's still kind of warm here. I got all dressed up this morning for like winter weather and I was like, oh, this is too hot still.
No, not where not where
I
you
know.
are. Yeah, it felt like the temperature dropped at least three degrees between
Uh-huh.
noon and 4 o'clock.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what it felt like.
Wow.
hmm
So how do we know each other? You want to search back into our memory bank?
I was thinking about that. I think it was from the Hirshhorn. So I
Yes,
was an artist in residence at the Hirshhorn,
right.
um, and you were leading that program.
It was like a
Elena Kalinovska and you.
yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. And I think I had you come in with Rosil Brown. I'm forgetting maybe
Yeah,
one of her names.
Rocio. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was great.
And we did a public talk together in the auditorium. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Hey, Kanita. Yeah,
Yeah. So do you feel like doodling?
I do. I am going to I'm gonna cut some stuff up.
Okay, great.
Because when you talked about doodling, I was like, I love to sketch, and I typically sketch with things. I don't always sketch with pencil and paper in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I need to let people know who've joined us recently is that Doodle with Me is about 30 minutes. We just talk about whatever comes to us, and it's the same thing with the doodling or whatever we're up to. We just kind of uh, ask you to join us. So please join us with anything that you like to do idly and aimlessly, and we will be the backdrop to whatever you're making or not making tonight. And it's completely non-committal.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think this is where my some of my more interesting or not ideas come out of just sitting around and trying to put some stuff together.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. When I'm not trying is when the best stuff comes, which is
Yeah.
so interesting. I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead and put my phone into the thingamajig.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a thingamajig too.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna tilt this thing down. Is
Okay.
that right? Can you see this? I don't know what you can
I
see.
see some. Oh, I see your board with some cows on it.
Yeah.
That's fun.
The cows. Here, I'm gonna tighten this little arm thing up so that my camera doesn't wiggle all over the place.
Yeah.
The phone. There. Okay, awesome. And let
Hey,
me see if I can tilt it down.
hey, so thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it. It's been fun to hang out with. We talk on the phone or text, but
Yeah,
this is a
yeah.
different kind of way to hang out. So I
It
appreciate
is.
it.
It is. I love it. I do like our Friday calls.
Yeah, when we can
Let me
do them,
see.
that,
Can you
yeah, I
see?
like it.
Okay. Yes.
Oh,
Oh.
I can see it. Looks good.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
I've got cows for days.
So you're cutting them out with like a razor blade, or not a
Yeah.
razor blade, an X-Acto knife.
Yes. I'm using this X-Acto knife that a friend shared with me. My friend O,
Uh huh.
and it's the Olfa. I think that's how you say it. The Olfa X-Acto blade.
Uh huh.
I, I think it's a pretty sexy tool. I love it.
That is, I can see the handle looks cool.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and it's got a nice weight to it. The
Oh, I
blades
love it.
are thin too. Look at that.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
But
I got some, I'm such a sucker for anything that comes on Instagram in terms of advertising, and somehow my algorithm now is like, um, art supply stuff. So, oh,
oh yeah.
I'm running out of ink. Hold on for a sec.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'll keep talking. I'll keep
but,
talking. So, uh,
but you know
yeah.
what?
So I got,
I always
uh-huh.
want Exacto to sponsor me. So I feel a little bit guilty that I have switched tools, because I'm always using X-Acto blades, but this one felt pretty good for tonight.
So they had their chance. They had their
You know
chance
what?
and they
They
screwed
did.
up.
They did. And I will tell you, I even want 3M to spot because I use all these 3M products.
Right.
You know, their politic is not very much aligned with mine. So, um,
Okay.
even though I do like those command strips, damn it, I wish I didn't like them so much.
Now, what are the command strips? What are those?
So I use those. Another artist friend shared those with me, and her name is Laura Amison.
Uh-huh.
And one, I was preparing for an exhibition, a solo show at School 33, and Laura decided that she didn't like the way I installed my
Oh,
work. And so she came in with command strips and said, "Do
and
you trust
commanded
me?"
you.
And commanded me and said, "Do you trust me?" And I said, "Well, of course I do." And so she just took one of my large collages. It was like, what, 100, 102, 105 inches tall,
Yeah.
laid it on its face on the floor on a moving blanket, and slapped these command strips on the back of it, and then put it on a wall. Pretty
So
much by itself.
what is it, like a two-sided adhesive kind of thing?
Yeah, it is. It's got it's basically Velcro.
Oh, it's Velcro.
Yeah.
Is it archival? I mean, can it be removed
Well, I
without?
mean, it can be removed. It can be removed. I don't know how archival it is, but it definitely can be removed. And actually, I'm going to pull out some.
Sorry, I'm kind of, I do geek out a little bit when it comes to
It's these.
materials. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm trying to see it.
So,
Huh. Cool.
and then it's got the front and the back. It's made out of plastic.
Yeah.
They grip together. One side goes onto
I,
the work, and the other side goes onto the wall.
I love
And
it.
honestly, it's brilliant. And so
It
it's because of Laura is the reason why all my work floats on the wall.
Well, I like the floating on the wall thing too. And I feel like it makes it more like accessible and available to people. It feels like there's nothing in the way. A lot of times with drawings too, especially large ones, the glass can
Mhm.
start to be too reflective or,
Yeah.
you know,
Or in
but
my case, the hardware was actually interfering
yeah,
with it because I was using washers and sandwiching paper in between two sets of washers, or I was using magnets
magnets.
and I would
Yeah.
paint the tops of them and,
Oh
things like
boy.
that. So it made it so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
It's amazing how like something like that can just change like the direction that you're going, you know what I mean?
Right?
Like it
It
becomes
really,
about something else.
I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan, it gave me a way to do something that I had always wanted to do, which is make these shaped things, make these shaped drawings, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I wanted the wall to be like the
Right.
white page.
The ground. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it was great.
I
Yeah,
love it.
it changed my life.
Actually, that's interesting to me because that's something I also think about because I like to try to figure out like how can I integrate my drawings into the architecture? Like
Mhm.
how can it instead of being extra be actually
Right.
part of the architecture? And that's like a thing for me about instead of the drawing being a window, it's kind of like more like a augmented reality.
Hmm.
It's in the space with you as opposed to taking you out somewhere else.
Exactly.
And I love that because
Yeah.
otherwise you kind of end up having to do all this stuff with you know with display kinds of stuff that kind of can get in the way, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like like going in to teach a class, but it's set up really traditionally, but you're just trying to have a casual conversation, and there's like
Right.
a lecture podium, and everyone's like,
It's exactly it is exactly like that. Oh my.
where you're like, I really just want to get to know all of you, and then but everyone's like in metal chairs with like,
Right. And the
and you've got
chairs move, and the chairs don't move, and they're all facing in one direction, but you can't
Ex-
move them into a circle or whatever shape you need it to be. That is
so
so true.
yeah, so all of a sudden you become authoritarian, even if you're trying not to do
Right, right.
it.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Might as well just make people salute a flag at that point.
Well, pretty much. There are lots of places that would rather you do that. So,
Now, do you ever participate in the comment section sometimes when you're on social media, or how
I
there's like,
do.
okay, can we talk about that for just a second?
Yeah.
So I usually don't, but sometimes when people say something, I feel like, well, I've got to, I need to say something to provide a different point of view. So
Right.
hopefully, idealistically, so hopefully like a conversation will start or something. Oh,
Yeah.
and every time I get disappointed with the comment section.
Uh, you know what? I have to tell you, I love like Zoom lectures and SteamYard, all these other platforms and
Yeah.
Instagram things because I love the comment section. I'm a big cheerer, so
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So you're talking about like when you participate in those comment sections. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm talking about things like if you watch a YouTube video and you just post something, or
Oh, that. So I
yeah,
don't know. When I'm on YouTube, if it's like
super.
YouTube Live, I join in.
Yeah,
It's
but see, yeah, I think my problem is I'm watching some video and then someone says something snarky, and then I kind of say, "Well, have you thought about it this way or that way?" And then
oh yeah.
it's completely anonymous, so no one can there's no accountability. You know
There's
what I
no
mean?
accountability. Well, I am not a big fan of anonymity, but I will
Yeah,
tell you, I'm not on Facebook. I think I still have a page on Facebook, but I got into a slight Facebook disagreement with someone in the comments section.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm just not interested in arguing with people online like that.
And the reason why they're probably commenting is because they don't have to be accountable. They can just
No,
say whatever they want.
they
So
sure
my
can.
so my little Pollyanna fantasy that somehow I'm going to have a real conversation is always ridiculous.
I can't imagine you being Pollyanna, but like, I got you.
Basically, it was they were talking about teachers. A
What
teacher
were
was
they?
saying that it was a TikTok video, and the teacher was saying comments that the kids made about his shoes, and some of them sounded kind of homophobic or
Yeah.
sexist, and so that was the conversation that started up, and I
Mhm.
said, well, it's a good moment for people to just talk about gender expression and that there's a lot of different kinds of gender expression. And
Yeah.
as soon as I said it, folks jumped on me, and I
Of
was like,
course
oh
they did.
no, really?
Of course. Because
So
I
how
know.
hard do I want to try with these people,
Well, first of all, you don't. But I teach this class. I teach a class called Constructions of Self and Other using
Uh-huh.
contemporary technology. It's actually about social media.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a colleague and I created this class, basically inspired by the ways that we use different social media platforms to find participants in the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. So, I always say that the social media is almost the excuse to talk about these ways of being, right?
Huh.
And projections and perceptions of self, right? So,
Yeah.
we're talking about positionalities, we're talking about gender expression, we're talking about gender performance,
Yeah.
uh, neoliberalism, all sorts of ideas, race and racism, racialized identities, all of these things, mental health, and things that are really important to discuss.
Right.
I think in classes and in public. But how do you do that? And how do you do that safely? Well, you have to attach it to something, right?
Uh-huh.
So that it doesn't always feel like a random conversation. And I always think that social media is a great way to get involved in that, right? Because people
Right.
are performing every day on media.
Would you say you're performing every day on
Oh,
media?
no, I said folks are performing every
Yeah.
day on media. We perform, right? and we're selective. We like curate our performances
Hmm.
on these platforms.
So how does that figure into being an artist for you? Do you feel like you're performing, being an artist sometimes on?
I have to tell you, one of one year, one of the undergrads that took my classes said, Professor Charlton performs as a professor and is performing as an artist right now. And I thought, huh, am I performing the role of an artist? Like, what does that mean? Um, but yeah, I think, um, you know, as an art, I think that part of my philosophy is that artists have to be in other places, and I think that social media gives me a way to be in a lot of different places
Yeah.
that normally would not be. And so,
Uh-huh.
so I find that I am watching things that I wouldn't actually watch or
Oh,
even think about or talk about.
yeah.
So, how does that play into being an artist? It's it's the way that I think more expansively. And so, yeah, so social media gives me a way to um, kind of traipse through different ideas and see how different people move through their curated lives. And I think about that when I come back into my studio and make work.
I mean, I actually am in the same situation. I, if I wasn't making art or thinking in terms of art, I probably would be interested in like cultural anthropology or,
Yes.
because I'm really interested in like folk culture and myths, and I feel like what's happening with all this social media is the kind of folk culture, and
Hmm.
there's a kind of a battle for control over it because folk culture can be very powerful if it's not controlled. It can move culture in some really interesting ways.
It's
So
true.
so I'm always like checking out like how are people trying to control this, and I originally in the 80s was like excited about cable access, like, oh, it's the people's TV, and then of course something else happens and something else happens and it keeps changing. So it's kind of fun to watch what these platforms are like when they're like early on in their history, when they're kind of
Hmm.
they're just open to more a variety of expression that's not tied
Yeah.
into making money,
Hmm.
um,
For
and you
sure.
yeah, and you get these people who are kind of more like adventurous, or there's people out there who are looking for well, novelty is like a more of a market term, but who are looking for a space where they can express themselves in ways that aren't conventional.
Hmm.
So I just kind of love to see it,
Yeah.
so I do end up a lot of times on these, watching stuff that, my partner kid just goes, why do you watch this
Why?
crap all the time?
Wait,
Why are you
who are you watching that you love the most? Because I'll tell you who I'm excited about on social media. But who are you excited about on?
Oh my God, that's a hard question because no one ever asks it. So I never really have any responses. I mean, every day is different.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. And I should be more, I should be really, after saying what I said, I should be more in it. Well, I watch TikTok, and I'm actually kind of fascinated by this thing that's going on TikTok right now. And even though I don't like TikTok, I kind
What?
of feel, well, I have to say, I don't like its effect on me, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
First of all, it's hard for me to find, there's a lot of basic, what I would say basic stuff.
Yes.
That it's hard for me to find anything that's like super interesting.
Uh-huh.
But I always kind of I kind of think against the grain or the meaning of something sometimes. Like I'll interpret it my own way. So there
Hmm.
is in Russia, there's these kind of dance videos they look like the Charleston, and
Yes.
basically they look like dance contests, and the people dress a little like the 20s, but the way they move their bodies is more contemporary.
Huh.
It's because if you watch like old 20s
Yeah.
dancing, the kind of body awareness that they have is different
Yes.
than we do now. And that
Right.
there's a lot of things about that. So I'm kind of like fascinated by it. And there's also something strangely kind of fascist in that it's people really want to dance the same moves together in unison, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind
Mm-hmm.
that at all. I like that. I celebrate that. I get it. But at sometimes I'm kind of like, but we're also like, why the 20s? You know, why? Uh,
Right.
and I feel bad because my mom and dad are on this episode. I mean, they're listening, and they heard this last night at dinner. So I'm repeating myself, but I do kind of like chew on things and think about things, and they're very. It might be trivial, but I'm always like, what's going? I just want to know what's going on in history. You know, I want to know like how are things changing? What is this coming from? You know,
Right.
so what's your favorite? What are your favorite?
I love, so there's an artist, a creator, an artist, an innovator that I absolutely love, and it's John Love Jr.
Uh-huh.
And he does these really amazing, inspiring, um, like monologues, and it's the quality of his voice and the cadence of that voice, and
Mm.
he's really it's I always describe it like loving tough love, you know.
Mm.
I think he's amazing. And then on the other end is Imani Van Zap, and she is a personality that is super positive but also very, very fun.
Uh-huh.
And I am completely in love with Imani Van Zap, a friend of mine, and I can't help but send him all sorts of links for Imani, usually first thing in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is what Imani has said. Um, you have been spared my 6 a.m. texts of social media things
Oh,
that I've
th-
seen. So
they
you
would
should,
be, well, that would be 4 a.m. here
yeah,
for me.
that would be 4 a.m. You should be so lucky.
I, you can do it. It's
Yeah.
all right. I know that terribly, that's the first thing I look at in the morning when I wake up is social media. And I need to kind of get out of that habit, but
It's hard. It's hard.
yeah.
You know, I did spend the first 5 or so months of the year not doing any of that.
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was lovely. There's a
Yeah.
lot of freedom in not having to see all that stuff. But I will tell you, I have a good time looking at the Instagram reels early in the morning and like TikTok. Like it's such a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. The reason why when I said TikTok and I said I don't like it is I I do like it, but I think what I do sometimes is I watch these dance videos or these exercise videos that are on
Uh,
there. So then I feel like I've worked out, but it's not.
yes.
I haven't worked out. I haven't even gotten out of bed. So what am I thinking? So
And
it's
what do you there is power in that, right? People are like, tricks your mind into thinking
yeah.
something. Do you remember that woman that used to do the pony? She was all over YouTube and she did
Oh,
that pony run thing.
oh, she's the Prancer lady, the lady with the
Yeah,
Prancer. She lives
yeah.
in, I think she lives in Hawaii, and
You are kidding. I
well,
love her.
because she did the Prancer video and got known for it, and then she started doing these videos where they were like, there was, like maybe 5 or 6 years after, she starts to do these videos where she's like running with wild horses and being filmed by a drone. So it's like a new, like a drone, a drone camera or whatever.
Look, she was living her best
She
life.
was living her retired in
Her
Hawaii
her
life.
right with the horses. Like, I mean, come on now. Like, I'm not mad at her.
I think it's like, and also too, I think, uh, was it a Juicy Couture or it was a sweat outfit. It was like a pink sweat outfit, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you're right. It was all about her best life.
It was all about that. Like, I
That,
loved her. But I love John Love Jr. and
I'll check
Amani
that.
Rap. Mm,
I'll check it out, and
yes,
we encourage our studio audience to check it out as well.
please do.
I just have to put in. I have to put in the phrase studio audience every now and then.
Those are my obsessions.
Those are
Those are my
good.
social media obsessions.
I wish I had better ones. I'm trying to think, you know, I was thinking about, for a while, and everyone knows this because I talked about it for a while. I was habitually watching Murder, She Wrote, and
On what station?
oh, it's on Netflix, but then I ran out. I just ran out, and then I had already watched them twice, all the episodes twice in a row. And then I realized, and I talked about this in another episode where the theory is that she's actually the killer and she's a serial murderer. And
Oh,
then I
that's
thought,
funny.
that's why every town that she arrives in, someone gets killed. But then I thought, wouldn't that be an amazing script? So I'm throwing this out to the studio audience if they want to do this. Wouldn't it be an amazing script? And I'm sure it's already being written, where it's, or not a script, it could be actually a book or a novel where you're
Uh-huh.
inside Jessica's head. You're inside her head and you realize that she loves her ideal Cabot Cove so much that she ends up having to kill people she feels like don't live up to Cabot Cove's ideal standards. So she's actually this nice person on the outside who writes murder mysteries, but on the
Uh-huh.
inside she's trying to control Cabot Cove to continue to be the perfect place.
Ah, okay. I never got into Murder She Wrote, but I need to watch it.
you you
I could
probably
probably binge.
shouldn't.
I
I'm
could
probably
binge.
making it more interesting than it is, but
Oh, I am also a sucker for series, so I
yeah.
will I will commit.
Oh, so tell me a little bit about. Do you want to talk about Ancient Aliens, or is that
Oh
off
my
the?
God.
Would
Yes.
Would you tell me a little bit about the
Well,
what
I
is
mean,
it about Ancient Aliens? Because I'm I'm not to write it off, but I basically saw that film from the 70s called
right.
Chariots of the Gods, and so I'm figuring, well, is this just Chariots of the Gods, but just like 10 years of it?
I'm going to tell you, I I was completely obsessed with Ancient Aliens, so much so that when classes started, I, because I can't keep my own secrets, I told all the grads that I watched Ancient Aliens for like 3 solid months. And I did. And it was totally embarrassing, but I did. It's a TV series that, is really talking about, ancient astronauts, right? And
Right.
there are, it's considered pseudoscience or pseudo history.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so much fun, right? And they're
Yeah.
they're talking about how you'll see small figures, sculptures, or what we would call sculptures, but art objects that you would find in Mayan temples, and the way that they're clothed is very similar to modern day astronauts. I mean, I was just so fascinated with that. It was just so much fun. We
Yeah.
were talking about what I believe or not, but I'm just telling you, like, that was so good. And I watched it during a period of recovery for my, like,
Uh-huh.
while I was recovering
Yeah.
um, from a medical procedure, and that was pure joy. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, 14, like, what do you call those? What do you call it? It's like not
Ep-
14 episodes, but uh,
Episodes?
episodes,
Episodes?
but where it comes every year, right? So it's like
Oh, season.
seasons. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Yeah, so there are 14 seasons, and it was fabulous. Beginning, and I was telling all my friends to watch it. I mean, and some gave me lots of side eye, but I was having a good time. Their lives weren't being enriched, so they needed to
Yeah.
see it. So I wanted everybody to be obsessed with it too. But yes, and it was on the History Channel.
So it's history.
It was on the History Channel, and I
Okay.
was like, how did they get this through the History
Yeah,
Channel? What's going
exactly.
on? I mean, and there is this one professor, I think he's a professor, I can't remember right now, but my man Giorgio, I just
Uh-huh.
loved him because he had this hair that I like. I looked for him for every episode. I was like, and there was a kind of way that he talks that I was fascinated by, like his
Uh-huh.
cadence, and I was super invested.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah. I
love
ha
it.
I have a neighbor who is a weather conspiracy person. So basically believes in that the weather is being controlled by the government somehow.
Uh-huh.
And we have a couple of, I mean, I think this might be not an unusual thing in Tucson. I can't say that realistically, but I think there are people who have some unusual ideas here. And
Hmm.
yeah, and then also too, you know, there's there's a person also that he believes it's kind of connected to ancient aliens, but he believes that before science, that human beings could see like these electric fields that kind of were
Right.
so it's not gravity. I
It's
can't
the
remember.
ley lines. The
It's
ley
the
lines that are all
yes,
across the world, right? And then they
yeah,
go through.
yeah. He says that those are real, and I would
Uh-huh.
believe it. And but that also um, that we used to be able to see it. And so if you look at ancient art, sometimes what they really are is showing you these electromagnetic fields or these,
Mhm.
you know, connections and things like that. So I have a feeling that I have a feeling he also watches Ancient Aliens.
I
'Cause,
bet he does.
yeah. And
I
there's
bet
all,
he does.
yeah.
Uh,
And
uh,
I mean, I do believe that the earth is a living thing, of
for sure.
course. Come on.
For sure.
And that why not? We have a nervous system. The earth has a nervous system.
Of
So
course.
maybe that's, you know,
I mean, look at what's happening, right? We've got global warming. We've got, right? So
right.
it is a living body. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that we're successfully fucking up. So
I know. I sometimes when I'm talking to students, you know, sometimes I'm like, God, my students are so like freaked out by everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, think about the time they're living in. It's
yeah.
so much information about uh, what we're doing. I mean, I lived in a time where the environmental movement was kind of gaining popularity, but it's been around now for what, 30 to 40 years.
Yeah,
So
right.
we've had all that time to
We've had all that time
I know.
to not believe.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the thing. So, like, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh. I wish there were more seasons of that show because I would be right there. I mean, that's that. I'm such an insomniac, and so
Oh, okay.
middle of the night, what are you gonna do?
Right.
I'm not like a productive insomniac, where, I wake up and I have a second life and a second career.
Uh,
I'm not one of
oh
those.
my God.
I'm like not one of those. I'm just kind of like, yeah, well, what am I gonna watch? I mean, I went through a period one
Yeah.
summer where I was having a hard time sleeping, and I watched so many kung fu movies.
Oh, I love
Like
kung
they
fu
were on like
movies.
auto repeat,
Yeah.
or what do you call that when it just advances to the next one?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
yeah, I know what you mean. It's like
right.
it's a cue, it's some kind of cue.
Yes,
So
and I
you're yeah.
and I don't necessarily like kung fu movies, but I was all there for it.
So I think that they're actually pretty relaxing, and I think it's the sound quality in them. Like I think that bad sound or sound that's like badly recorded can be very relaxing. So maybe that's it. Um, like I think that's the power of this show is that it's the sound quality. You know, we hypnotize people because it's probably not so good. But yeah, I do. I like martial arts films. I like films that have ghosts in them, like you know the ones where the martial arts also have like battle, you know, demons or ghosts. Or I love all that.
Oh wow,
There,
yes. Okay.
there's one I can't remember, but basically the demons were it was such a cheap budget that they were just basically people with a lot of hair in front of their face wearing black leotards. And I was like, okay, you know, this I guess this works.
You were there for it. You were convinced. Um,
I do like cheap values because then it allows me to use my own imagination, you
of
know.
course, of course. You know what I loved there's this series called well, it's an anime, and it's called Trece, and
Uh-huh.
on Netflix, and it is based in Manila.
Huh.
And I love um, this animation.
Uh-huh.
And, and so there's traditional language that's spoken in it, and it's all about, it's kind of like the supernatural, but it's a cartoon. And
Oh.
well, I mean, I think it does it a huge disservice to call it a cartoon, but it's fabulous. And so, most of the students in my undergrad class all know that I love that show, and that I recommended it to so many times. I feel badly sometimes for the folks that are in my classes, because then they get to hear about my obsessions.
Well, but you know, is there something to be said about that that I think that's okay because I think you have to, as an artist, you have to learn to become obsessed and to value your obsessions and to see them as inspiration and like a little gold vein that you can follow where
Oh,
work can come out of it. Like you're getting to know yourself kind of sometimes through your obsessions, and it's not a bad thing for that to be modeled, you know? So
mm-hmm.
I think that's great.
Well,
And the
yeah,
other thing too, I feel like that I think the old days where you know you've got to look at European art history and say that's the only influence that of great art. You know, there's so much great art kind of in the popular culture and commercial field. You know, there's so much beautiful renderings. You know, that like the other day I just discovered all of an online archive of all of the drawings that the Imagineers did
ooh,
to create the Haunted Mansion,
oh,
and they're
where?
just lovely. They're like architectural drawings, but they also have like this really nice like pen and ink flair. So you kind of it's like it's showing you how they make the special effects in the Haunted Mansion, but they're also just drawn by people who really know how to draw, and you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, and can really. So to me, it's like it's not art, but it is artfully done in a way that I can appreciate. So I feel like that's just as good sometimes. Um, sometimes like if I'm showing slides of work, I like to mix that stuff in because I think people start to, you know, they think like, oh, I got to make it look like Da Vinci or I got to, you know.
Right, right. There's a lot of different ways to to draw and to make things, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
With
even sometimes, even when I make, like I'll make a costume for kid, sometimes there's just I feel like, you know, this is valid.
yeah,
This can be, you know, and I think that, you know, sometimes letting students know that it is valid and that so it doesn't get in the way of their imagination and their creativity, you know?
exactly. Well,
I, yeah.
their imagination or creativity, right?
Yeah. It's,
Right.
it's, it's almost like I don't want to teach people out of being artists by the very fact that I'm alienating them by saying that this is what art needs to look like. And I
Right.
struggle with that because sometimes there's this idea about realism that only art that is, and it's funny because I'm, you know, I'm trained to make realistic looking work, but that only art that is kind of in that that responds to that canon or comes from that family tree of
Mm-hmm.
artists. And that I do think sometimes people have sensibilities that are are different. Like they maybe it's good to just not to unteach, like not to get them to unlearn the habits of pop culture, but just to kind of blend them with other things. Or I
Embrace them,
don't know.
right? To use them in that way, because you're right. Yeah. I mean, I I would use I say yes to everything that you said, and I use the word creativity. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not trying to squelch anybody's creative impulses, because it's those impulses, like my impulse right now to cut out cows and
yeah,
buy flowers. because I don't know what that will lead to. And I'm thinking about a whole bunch of other things while I'm doing this. And that's the doodle. And so I don't want to squash anybody trying to figure
Yeah.
that out.
I'm the
You know?
same way. I think that the creativity is so much more important than the actual product that a person makes. And I don't know, maybe that just makes me like a more into the the health benefits of creativity. But I think that artists don't talk about sometimes those aspects of it because it doesn't sound like they're valuing the work as an artwork,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think they're interconnected. And I think like your state of consciousness when you make work is part of the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Most definitely.
Yeah. Oh boy, did I get on the soapbox. I'm sorry. I think
Ah,
it's just,
brilliant.
do
I
you
love
ever do you ever find when you look at other a lot of artwork that is kind of more like um you know written about in the art magazines, or do you find that there's like a certain kind of way people are making work that gets validated more than others? Or
Yeah, I do. And yeah, I do. And I find it troubling.
yeah, I do
I find it
too.
really troubling. Because do you remember what was that in the 90s, the early 90s or something, I think it was the early 90s. Those all those folks from the Royal Art Lodge, Marcel Zama, and
Oh yeah.
there was a period where there were so many people making work like that,
Mm-hmm.
coming to art schools. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was, right? And folks didn't even know why they were doing it, but they saw it and they loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. And
Yeah.
so there was a period where a lot of work that looked like that was getting a lot of play. A lot of people were getting kudos for copying that particular style, and there wasn't necessarily a reason why they were doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think sometimes what I worry about is that the art world goes kind of Hollywood, and they only are able to see and support things that they can recognize based on things that were already successful.
Oh, for real.
As opposed to being open to the fact that everyone's sensibility may take them in a different sort of way, and that it may not be something that is familiar or recognizable. And
Hmm.
I give it to the curators that hopefully they're doing their work in terms of finding people whose work may not fit into
Hmm.
what looks valuable or looks smart, or it's an
Right.
interesting thing. It was something that came up when I was talking to a curator, which is like that regional work often gets kind of uh, uh, that people think of regional work as not necessarily being as important as like uh, or local work is not as important as big city work, or
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's why, not to bring up places, but I think that's that state of the art show that Crystal Bridges did was so exciting for
Yeah,
folks. Is because they ostensibly went beyond the typical places where people find artists, new
e-
artists.
exactly. Because after a while, it's like the same circle that people are kind of drawing upon, and I don't know how that gets broken because not everyone has the platform. So in some ways, I think a lot of people curate off of Instagram in some ways to break that. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah. I just realized that went over time.
Oh, did we? I'm still gluing some
Oh
some.
wow! Look at those guys.
Well, wait. I want to show you what this is. They're they're
Okay.
they're hugging some cows. I'm just gonna.
Oh, they're
No,
hugging cows. All right.
well, partial cows. So hold on. Here they are, which I think is super funny. There.
Oh, oh, that's sweet.
I don't know if you can see them. They're like big bodybuilders hugging some.
Those are great. Did you get that from an old bodybuilder magazine?
Yeah, it was this. There's a really cool, or there was a really cool free bookstore here in Baltimore, and yeah, I find really great things. So I found this bodybuilding book from the 80s
Mm.
that I think is really brilliant. These guys, fantastic. Like that's Casey Vader.
Yeah.
This is Berto and Sergio Olivia. I'm not acting like I know who these folks are. I don't.
No, but it's
They're,
like it's a world on its own that you kind of get to discover and think about, and I love it.
it's true. And you know what? These are really terrible copies. This book was printed. It's like not a great printed book, but I love the way all this looks.
I know. I love a grainy Ben Day dot. You know, I
Right?
love all that. Yeah, all of that old like printing press stuff that you just don't see anymore because everything's electronic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Are we really over time?
Yeah, we are. We actually. I mean, I'm not gonna be. Forget it. It's so fun. It was so fun to talk with you, and
It was great to talk with you.
I could do it forever, Zoe. I really could.
We should do it again.
You are the best. Thank you for being on Doodle with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. This was cool.
Yeah, and
I'll see you some of my finished cows.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out. I can't wait to see what you are. They good? I'll have to see if they become half cow and half bodybuilder, or if they're going to be hugging. I'm very curious.
Something.
Okay, thanks, and thank you all for joining Doodle with me, with Zoe Charlton. Please check out Zoe's work on, I think it's
Zoe Charlton Studio.
Great. Yeah, and check out her work. And also, just to let you know that the schedule for December, which will be the last schedule for Doodle with me, is coming out in a couple of days. And I just really appreciate all of you tuning in. And this has been a great ride. And it's been great with you, Zoe, as well as all the other guests. Yeah. All right. So
wonderful.
Bye.
Bye.
Good weekend, everybody. Bye.